And thank you very much, David Hasselhoff and Joey Deacon. You'll be glad to know that they're bringing out an album later in the year. Excellent. Right, painting. Now, with the Tomcat, I'm going to be painting this in 3 types of grey, or 3 types of base grey, which I've just very quickly shown you. Basically, it's going to be a medium grey, a dark ghost grey, and a light ghost grey. Now, where I'm pointing out to you now is where the air brake is situated, and I've painted already the inside red, but also you do have some overspray. So when you're actually doing this, just bear in mind that the contrast between the 2 colours and also the thickness of the paint is going to affect the undercoat, if you know what I mean. What I'm trying to say is try and put enough paint actually on the kit without the red showing through. Now, don't do this as in a all over the place, because it'll look shit and it won't bear any resemblance to the rest of the actual kit itself. So just do it in light coats over and over, and make sure that it's actually pretty much painted the same as the rest of the fuselage, because yeah, it'll stick out like a sore bottom on a bear. Anyway, so what am I doing with the paint? It's lacquer paint from Hataka's, and it is the medium grey. For this, medium grey is FS 35237, and all I've done is I've actually put the thinners and the paint into the colour cup and mixed it actually in there by squeezing in the nozzle and blowing air through, so it's mixing up, and it works fine. It is going to be very, very thin, hence why yeah, it does take time, so be patient, and if you're patient, you'll pay dividends to your efforts, as it were. So really what I'm doing is, instead of just going like from side to side, up and down, as you can see there, I'm actually doing it in very, very small circles around the pre-shading, which I've already done with the stencils. Now, when you incorporate that with what I've already done, you do get a very sort of like distressed sort of like pattern actually on the main kit itself, which allows itself to be a bit more weathered, if you know what I mean. Well, it's the start of the weathering process. Now, what I do, I urge you to go onto a website or whatever, not to look at dirty pictures of women or men, but it is to actually look at the F-14 when it's actually in deployment in wherever theatre it is. And you'll see, after a long period of time on ops, then these aircraft do get pretty battered, as in weather-wise. No rust, because it's obviously anti-corrosion, all the rest of it. Well, let's say anti-corrosion, but they do get battered. So yeah, aim in the game is very thin coats. Do it in sort of like really weird circular, or even figure of 8 patterns, and just take your time. Don't rush it, because like I said, your efforts will be rewarding.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Yeah, I really couldn't agree with you more, that one, mate. But anyway, on with the painting. Really, what you really got to do is, again, is just take your time, have a bit of patience, stick some music on, or whatever it is that you do, and just plow on with it. And like I said, your results will come through. Now, when you're looking at references, this is a good one to actually think about. I use a reference as in books or either on the internet. Now, when you're looking at references, obviously different cameras, different lenses, different types of quality of film, whether it's digital or it's like a Polaroid or whatever it is always going to be different, different lights and stuff like that. So when you're coming actually down to your actual painting, don't be too worried about the fact that you've got to get it right, because really, if you're looking at your own eyes, it's like even that are different. So one person's interpretation is not going to be the same as, I don't know, a few others, quite a few others probably. So when you're actually doing this, don't sort of like keep referring to like your references time and time and time and time again until you're like, oh God, this is pissing me off. Don't get to that stage. Just try and make it your own, and remember what you've seen, actually on a bit of reference. So really, it is a case of just like, yeah, I like that picture. I like how that F-14 is weathered. I'm going to stick with that one and go from there. So it's as easy as that. Now, if you have overdone it and you think, right, I need it to be a bit more distressed, as it were, then you can quite easily just go over it with some darker paints and a stencil, and that's all you really need. But by darker paints, what you're really looking at is the fact of, let's say you've got a medium grey, then you can have a dark sea grey, like I'm actually putting down now. And surprise, surprise, a medium grey and a dark sea grey isn't that much difference, but there is a slight variation in the greys. Now, without being really boring and looking like the John Major puppet on Spitting Image back in the 80s, I went for another one, a darker one, which was the extra dark sea grey. Now that is quite a stark contrast between the medium grey and the extra dark sea grey. So just be careful when you're actually doing it, that you don't actually overdo what you want to do. As in, you want to put it back, but don't. It's like spraying like black and white, if you know what I mean. It's very, very sort of like stark and different. So again, thin your paints down, okay, and just do some very, very light coats. As in, do one pass, take the actual stencil off and have a look. If you're not too happy with it, put it back on. It doesn't have to go on in exactly the same place. Just go over it again and see what you come up with. And if you're happy with that, then if your eyes tell your brain, yeah, I'm happy with that, I don't want to do it anymore, then move on to another section. Or if it's just one particular place, let's say for instance near the back of where the engines are, where it will get quite mucky, then yeah, it's yeah, you just go on and see how much you want to go, how much you want to do, and once you've finished, you're finished. Okay, so just finishing off, this is the extra dark sea grey, as I mentioned before. It's just a simple case of, again, just thinning it down, as I said, really boring, and just going and spraying it in random places. So that's generally about it. Right then, so just moving on, we're just going to be applying the dark ghost grey, which is FS36320. And yeah, all we're doing is, well, is applying the paint on the front part of the fuselage, as you can see, in exactly the same way as we were doing before. It's going to be the same, as I said, on the sides, the top, the underneath, absolutely everything. Now, when you're looking at the medium grey and the dark ghost grey, in certain lights you can't really see much of a difference, but in other ones you can. However, with the actual change in what we've already done, as in the underneath, as in the distress painting, it does actually bring out quite a bit of a difference when you start and when you take the masking tape off. But when you start to do the weathering, which is in a later video, you'll see that it will decrease, and actually your, this isn't going to be understandable, but your eyes and your brain don't really see it that much, if at all. Anyway, shut up, Lenny. Okay. Anyway, so again, it is just a case of rinse and repeat, mask, demask, and really enjoy what you've done. Okay then, so the last bit when we're talking about painting will be the underneath, which will be the light ghost grey, which is FS36375. So yeah, there you go. And believe it or not, this is done in exactly the same way as the top and the sides. So there. So yeah, do as you wish when you're coming down to the sort of like the underneath. And bearing in mind, I've taken the masking off because I have no fear in the overspray, because it doesn't matter when you're looking at the intakes, because they're painted the same as the underneath anyway. So yeah, nice and simple. So anyway, that is painting a lot of greys on grey on grey. So there you go. That's all we're going to say about the actual painting of it. Now, if anyone wants to say that you've done it wrong, or your perception of things are incorrect, or whatever it is, that the best thing I can suggest is just kick him in the balls and tell him to fuck off. Right, that's it. That's all painted, all done and dusted, and ready for a gloss coat, ready for the decals. Now, don't worry about the wheel wells. You can mask those off and do all the other white bits that you need to do, either at a later date, or you can crack on with them right now. It's entirely up to you. So yeah, there you go. That's the painting done. Nice, short, sweet, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, so until the next video, you take care.